Okay.
Is your copy? It's an extra one.
I don't
Did you get one?
Oh, I didn't get one. Is there?
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if I want
Oh.
3,000 pages of
self-contained
Data?
virus.
Okay, good. Okay.
that someone dropped
I'll
out.
explain what it is.
Yes.
Okay, super.
That's Jerry. Goodies.
No viruses that I'm aware of.
Viruses come this
That
way.
you're aware of.
Well, I'm Paul's made.
Make sure Paul gets that one.
Okay, it is 4:30 on the 18th of June. So let's get started. Have Brad here, Art is here, Emily's here, Paul's here. And we have one vacancy, which we'll address as part of today's meeting. We have two people that have requested to make comments to the MUD from the public. So let's do that. Jack Munich is first. So Jack, would you like to stand up and introduce yourself?
Here I'm expressing interest in the vacant director position. I'm retired. Worked 32 years for IBM, last 20 in comprehensive big deal packaging and sales, extensive financial analysis and retail, assumption building. I have an MBA from the University of Rochester. And I just want to be able to represent the water users and taxpayers in this district, this MUD.
Thank you, Jack. Vinnie Forrest.
Good afternoon, Chairman, member of the board. I had the privilege of being here like 3 months ago. So on December 6th, I received, you probably remember me.
Yes.
I've been here. I received an invoice of a bill for $1,004.27. The previous month was $17, and since then, my bill doesn't exceed $20. I live in a small house. I did not live by myself, and the utility sent wise guys to investigate and find out there was a leak. They found nothing. They have not made any changes to to my system at all. There is nothing really wrong with it. It happened within 4 o'clock, 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. I was present there. I was sleeping, but the bathroom is right there. There was a leak at the toilet. I mean, I was there. Just to let you know, it's 113,563 gallons in 1 hour. So if the toilet had, assuming that there was a toilet failure, I had to flush it 22,713 times, which is hydraulically impossible. I'm a water engineer. I guess I'm a professional engineer. I know this deeply that it never happened. So the company gave me a credit of $600. And when I was here at the board, you studied the case and it was rejected. So I asked for an explanation. I did not receive an explanation why it was rejected. I think it's fair. I mean, I believe it was a system error. It happens. There's no leak in a small house. The sprinklers were completely shut off. I really asking you to please give me an explanation. What has happened? Why my request was rejected? Really?
Okay. I don't know whether anybody from Water Authority would like to comment first before I come.
Well, as the resident said, he did have a leak. It spanned 15 days, not just 1 day. The leak was spread out over 15 days. We gave him, because we didn't know what the leak was, we gave him an unexplained leak adjustment. His bill, as he said, was $6,004. Customer paid $100 just as a good faith effort. We gave him an unexplained usage adjustment of $656.47, and his balance due was $247.80. And this was back in January, as I said.
This career policy.
So he came,
I just want to let him hear it.
but additional relief, and it was denied because this credit met the policy. That was all that the board at the time was going to get.
Do you mind if I?
So I'd rather not enter into a tit for tat.
No, just an explanation here. You told us that we need to use the system we have in place. So this is the information I got from the system. I mean, this is exactly a printout what I see in the system that you guys have. And it clearly states that these consumption of water happen between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. Exactly what I got in the system. There's absolutely no leak, otherwise it would be leaking right now. No changes have been made at all. Zero. And
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify.
Would you like to hear our explanation again, or do you want to continue to confront the? Okay, so we appreciate you coming. We did hear your case. We looked at the data. We made a decision. You did get relief over $600. Okay, brought your bill from over 1,000 down to around 400. Okay, so we think we've looked at the data and made the right decision. I know you don't agree with us, but I can ask the board again if we'd like to open this back up for further consideration. Paul, you were here last time.
I thought we had resolved it.
Did we determine where the water was used? I mean, that's a lot of water.
No, that's why it's unexplained usage. We just, wasn't a broken sprinkler head, as he said, it wasn't. We have no way of knowing. We do offer one-time unexplained usage.
So we brought his bill from over 1,000 to down to less than
Yeah.
400.
I remember the case.
Can you introduce yourself?
So, as you explained, that you said that there was a correction made, that there was a unexplained usage from a leak. What was the leak caused from and how did you?
It's unexplained. There is no leak.
So,
And we didn't have a leak.
so then how do you explain this?
That's why unexplained usage.
But you can't have an unexplained usage over these number of gallons for a resident.
Look, that happens all the time. Unexplained usage, customers not home, it happens quite often.
He's
We
already-
don't know where the water went, but we do know it went through the meter. That's all we can attest to.
How are the meters read?
And they're electronically read via the internet.
So if you'd like to schedule another session,
More discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Visit about this outside the board meeting.
Yeah.
This is not a discussion.
so I encourage you to schedule a meeting with the Water Authority if you want more technical discussions. After that, if you feel the need to bring it back to the board, come on back. Okay. But, you know, I'm sorry you didn't feel like you got an explanation last time. I thought we analyzed the data, made a decision, and hopefully what you've heard today is a follow-up on that. If you have more questions, please reach out to our authority. Okay. Okay. So that was item 3.
Item 3 was it?
That was item 3.
That was item 3. Okay. Item 4, any additional requests for relief? No. Okay, we have the consent agenda, pages 1 through 13 from our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve that?
Move to approve. I second it.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda items? Okay. Ready to vote? All for approving the consent agenda? Say yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. That takes us to item 10, discuss appointment of a new director. So we've heard from one citizen during the public comment. I'd like to open it up. Do we have a desire for discussion or a motion on the table?
I feel that Jack has shown interest over the last several years of wanting to be a board member of this MUD and has actively campaigned in the MUD district supporting other candidates. So I feel that he has shown a lot of interest and we should seriously consider.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept Jack as a candidate for the vacancy that we have.
Have a second?
So if this one doesn't have, if I'm going through the agenda items, we don't have an act item that's got discussed on here.
No, that's a failure of,
Well, I mean, I think if
Yeah.
the board it's agreeable. We don't
Yeah.
have the documents as oath and what have you.
Right,
See them
yeah.
anyway, but if the board, concurs to seat him at the next meeting, then we would have items on next month's agenda to be able to seat him, have the oath of office, et cetera. So it's not like you're missing a month.
So if
in the
he
process.
is on vacation next month, does he have to be physically present here?
It should be. I mean, we can defer it until the next meeting when he can, because we have to perform the oath. So yes, he does have
Be
to.
honest.
So I guess, Eric, I thought my request was to fill that position. I guess I didn't specify we wanted to act upon it.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't recall.
Well, we wouldn't have had, I mean, regardless, we wouldn't have had the documentation. We wouldn't have had the name. We would have needed direction from the board about who that person was going to be to be able to see them. To be able to complete their documents, just like y'all signed your documentation, we knew you were going to be joining the board. So we wouldn't have had that, anyway. So again, y'all can have discussion. You can concur if this is the candidate that y'all want to seat on the board. And then at the next meeting, we'll have it on the next agenda. If he's able to attend, great, form the oath and seat him. If not, then, keep it on the agenda and have it carry forward. Yeah. You can basically conduct a straw poll, it's not an official vote. The vote doesn't, the vote's symbolic anyway, because you're not actually seating. That'll be at the next meeting, has official oath and bonds and all that stuff.
So next meeting, there'll be an agenda item says act,
Yes.
appoint.
Well, it'll have the laundry list of stuff, where we have the
Right.
complex disclosure memo and
Okay.
new district registration form, all that stuff.
And it'll have his name.
Yes, if that's.
Okay.
if
So I guess the question is, was that a motion that Marta made to,
I
It has
guess
to be read.
I'd have to restate it differently.
Well, it wouldn't be a motion, just you indicate your support for him to be seated, and then we just kind of go around
okay,
the table.
Paul, any thoughts?
I'm not ready to vote on anything. I just heard the name 6 minutes ago.
Emily?
I mean, Jack's been in the previous election and he has been very active in the focus of the fiscal aspect of the board. So I'm definitely in support of people moving forward and acting and coming here to, show their support. So I'm in favor of Jack being on the board or whatever, however I need to state this for.
Yeah, you're voicing your support for the candidate.
Thank you.
I'll voice my support also. Okay.
Then I think for the future agenda items under item 24, then y'all can request for an item to be added to feed him on the board at the next meeting. We'll have his documents prepared. Jack, if you could give us your contact information so we can.
It's on the form that I filled out.
Okay, good. We'll be in touch with you.
Okay. So that takes us to item 11. Chris, you want to bring us your monthly update?
Yes, sir. So our information is in your packet on pages 14 to 31. That's the Woodlands Division monthly operations report, as well as the GRP monthly operations report. No violations, Woodlands nor GRP, nothing really out of ordinary, but we do have status updates on the various projects. One thing I did want to draw your attention to was discussed earlier is prior to the meeting, I passed out a blue and silver flash drive. That flash drive we talked about last month's meeting at the new director of orientation. That has all the contracts between Mud 7 and the River Fleet. Has all the information we have on the wastewater strategic plan. It has all the AC water line information we have, has the 10-year project plan and all the reference material that we have when we were given for AC water lines as well. One additional thing that's on there that nobody else's has is, Brad, the information that you requested from us, it's also on that flash drive as well. So I provided it to the four of you as well as to Eric and Shelley as well.
Is it also on the Google Drive?
I don't deal with the Google Drive, that's why I give it to those folks.
Haven't put it out there.
You,
Did you forget it?
yeah, let's go ahead and put it on the Google Drive. Okay.
Just this.
Well, most of what's on here is already on the Google Drive, I assume.
It should be in one part or the other. Right.
Okay, but just the new part, I guess. Okay, thank you. And thank you for responding to my data request. Yeah, it must have, I didn't hear any follow-up questions, so it might have made sense.
It made sense. There are some limitations with the financial aspect. I know you have an agenda item later. Do you want me to hold my comments till then or talk on this?
We can hold them. Okay. Any questions from the board for Chris? Okay,
Is he on page 28 or is that someone else?
28, yeah. 14 through 31.
I did have a question. Does what Conroe uses affect us in any way, Mud 7? The fact that they don't use really surface water, we just use surface water?
So each of the cities in the middle, the 7 NT, starting with Woodlands, ending with MSCC. MSCC, by the way, is Wood Forest. They didn't take any surface water because their facility burned down, but just FYI. All of those entities in the middle, they're each given an annual allocation. And so it depends really when they need the water, when they get the water. So if they do not give us any direction, like the Woodlands have given us an overall direction of 50-50 blend throughout the year. So throughout the year, we adjust it every day, every month to ultimately try to hit the 50-50 blend. City of Conroe plays more of a hands-on approach where every month they want to give some direction and they basically want to sandbag and keep their allocation for the summertime. So they have more water available for their system when more irrigation and everything else goes. So simple question or simple answer is no, what they use does not affect Mud 7 or Eagle.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Chris. So Ed, I think you've got an interesting topic to bring forward.
Yes, sir. If you all will turn to page 32 and 33. We've had a number of questions, comments before the election and since the election about the water reclamation facility and wanting a comparison between conventional treatment versus MBR treatment. Enough questions to show that there is interest by probably a good majority to see a true comparison side by side of costs, benefits, pros and cons. We also had a question raised at the new MUD director meeting that was held a week and a half ago to include the replace in place. And so from those conversations, we developed this feasibility. This would be the next step to try and get answers prepared and delivered to the various directors that have been asking the questions. So what we've got here is a replace in place, a conventional treatment, and MBR technology comparison. We would look at pros and cons of each one of those items. We would also look at the delivery method of how that project would be delivered through design and construction. And there are two options that we're essentially looking at. One is competitive seal proposals, which the River Authority does day in and day out with all of their capital projects. And then the alternative is construction manager at risk. The last construction CMR project that we did was the surface water program. It was very successful. We delivered the project on time within the budget. But each one of those has some nuances necessary to be able to, I'll continue to use the word deliver the project. CMAR requires a certain professional that can represent the owner and advise the owner through the project. There's costs associated with that. If we go competitive seal proposal, we probably need a project manager, and that would be a consultant. So similar cost. The CMAR has a guaranteed maximum price that the contractor would bid, and the contractor would be involved similar to a value engineering through the design of the project. That's not the case with competitive sealed proposal. So again, we would look at the pros, the advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons, however you want to say it, on what best fits the options for this project. Next thing we would do is also, we currently have a site layout or conceptual site layout for MBR technology. We would prepare a similar site layout for conventional treatment, both on the new land and then also what it would take to replace the facility on the existing land. And there are some concerns about whether doing it on the existing land, we have sufficient property to do that. One of the challenges through all of this has been people's concerns about the cost of the project. Yes, it's a lot of money, but we need to get comparative cost for the three options. We would also look at a 50-year planning horizon so that we are comparing everything equally. We have some, this would include electricity, the typical mechanical replacement at 20 and 25 years, and then 50 years is typically considered the replacement time frame for a lot of the major infrastructure like the concrete basement and such. And there's a little bit more explanation on the top of the second page. The other thing we would need to look at is evaluate our manpower needs, both internally and for internal and external. We have a staff of engineering professionals, but we only have so many people and we have a lot of projects across the river authority. So we would need to look to see if there's a need for a few more permanent employees, or are we better off outsourcing and hiring professionals, hiring to assist for construction administration, inspection, and various other tasks. So we want to give this a full-blown review from the beginning to end. And also the one thing that we have mentioned to the trustees last week is we're asking to be able to do this with an independent consultant, someone who's not been involved in the process so far. Yes, it would take them a little bit to get up to speed, but we feel like that's been the desire of a number of the directors, that they would like to see the independent evaluation. Let's see. We think it'll take about 6 to 8 months to accomplish. So whenever we can get a decision made, whether this is moving forward or not, from whatever date that is, then roughly 8 months later, we will bring the results with a recommendation. So the ask today is talk amongst yourself. There's not an agenda item to officially do this, but talk amongst yourself and give your trustee some directive of how you would like to proceed, whether you want to proceed with this feasibility study or not.
How much is the feasibility study?
Don't know yet, because we don't even know if you would approve us going forward. So once we know that there is support by the trustees to do this, we would develop a scope and go to the consultant and ask for a proposal.
And thank you for bringing this forward. Just because I am new and I've not seen anything in the past. I mean, why now? Why did it take this long to get some general on the ground studies done for this comparison?
Well, we did look at some of that during the strategic planning phase 1. And within the first couple of meetings, they quickly decided that the best route for the authority at that time was to go to MBR technology. And so they did not do a true comparison of conventional treatments to the full aspect that they did MBR. And so that's what this would do.
And they is
The consultant. The stakeholders did not ask for us to pursue that level of comparison through the process.
The stakeholders are made up of board members from each MUD, community members from the chamber and township, and different folks throughout the community were on the stakeholders. It was about a 15-month evaluation of the treatment plant. So what he's saying is early on in that process, they went through, I think, what was it, 15 different options? It came down to one option to develop further, and that became that was the MBR option and so all the other options didn't continue to be developed as they, moved on with that.
Mainly to save costs.
And, a lot of this is a result of the high amount of director turnover we've had the last 2 years. We're kind of looking back and looks like we had 34, 35 out of 45 resident directors who have come on in the last 2 years. So that's a huge percentage. And so a lot of the directors who were involved with that stakeholder group and those discussions and reports back and what have you, are no longer here. You have huge loss of institutional knowledge. So to go back, and so you have new directors coming on, asking questions about, well, what about conventional versus MDR? And we're already talking about, well, we talked about that in the stakeholder meeting. You got a lot of new directors, you are a couple of them. But for some of those new directors, you say, well, that's great, y'all considered it before, but I'm gonna look at it again. And so I think River Authority is hearing that message and coming back to the MUDs and the trustees to ask for authorization to go back and reevaluate this with our new population directors.
Yes, and I want to thank you too for bringing up some points in the board of trustees meeting that we watched online. But there are some concerns that you have just looking at both, wanting to make sure, and this would be a feasibility study you'd be interested in as well. So thank you for voicing that.
Now, a lot of them, as Chris mentioned on the flash drive that you have, meeting minutes or meeting summaries, and a lot of the exhibits are all on that flash drive from phase 1 and phase 2 of the strategic plan. I realize that you just received it today, so there's a lot of information in there to go through and kind of get familiar with, possibly while this is going on.
So you're looking at the end of the summer to maybe have us be ready to make a decision?
It's either July meeting or August, yes, ma'am.
And that's the trustees. So because this would be funded through the River Authority budget that's approved by the Board of Trustees. So what they're asking for today is direction to Brad on how to vote on this at the July trustee meeting.
Any other comments?
I would just add that I think this is obviously an important decision, but it's also perhaps the third or fourth thing that we've come up with that we need to do that we didn't do. And then that's taken about a year longer than what we did our first preliminary talk. And so I would hope when we talk ourselves, amongst ourselves, that we try to get some of those questions to the top. Let's talk about them now and quit coming up with one a month so that we can delay things 6 to 8 months. The whole deal that we've been talking about, Brad, is how long are we going to wait to do this? And we've already been shown that to fix it piece by piece is probably not a good idea financially, or even as far as the environment goes, that we have a plant that's 53 years old. And the longer we talk about it, the sooner we get to the end of it. And I think that that's, again, this is important, probably expensive, but I also believe that at some point we need to either build a plant or not. And if we wait 2 or 3 years while we keep getting the next question and then the next question and then the next question, whether it be new or old board members. So I would just ask that we try to get it done, try to bring up all the issues that we can approve at one time and say, maybe we can do it all in 6 or 8 months instead of waiting until 6 or 8 months and saying, well, here's the next thing. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Marty, you have any comments, questions?
I'm at a loss, kind of, because we've spent time investigating this in the past. But I'm also cognizant that there are many other people who want to pass bonds for more money. And we're going to really lay on a lot of bills to the taxpayers of this community. I just read an impact about the roads in Montgomery County needing money. I'm going to propose a bond for either November or May of next year. And then now we're asking to build a whole new plant. It just seems like everything's coming to a head. And there was no savings or forethought in the past that this was going to happen, that we were going to end up having to build something or change something. We didn't put any money away for that. So I guess as a taxpayer, I would like us to be a little more in planning for replacement and not bringing this burden to our taxpayers all of a sudden.
This planning effort has been underway for the past 3 years that I'm aware of. Been intimately involved in. Also, the audit committee that represents the interest of all the MUDs has given us indication that for something that has a service life beyond 25 years, that they prefer to issue bonds for that in lieu of trying to pay it out of pocket. Because that way the cost of the project is spread over several generations that are using those facilities in lieu of just the people in the community at the time that this occurred. So for the smaller projects, we are setting money aside. It's in our budget that you all approved to do. But when you start getting into 20, 30, 50, 100 million, a couple $100 million, then that definitely needs to be debt financed. And one of the questions has been asked. We'll go ahead and throw it on the table. We sell revenue bonds. We do not do general obligation ad valorem tax bonds. Revenue bonds do not go to the voters for approval. The water and sewer rates are pledged to pay the debt of the bonds. Now, how you all pay us is being discussed internally with the MUDs and by Eric. But that's how we sell the debt.
So Ed, I appreciate the email that was included in the package. Your last statement was, if I can quote, "We welcome comments and input from the directors and ask that the comments be provided to Eric." So last night I sent a note to Eric and you. So I can share my comment to the board. I remain very concerned that the data we have indicates there are significant assets on the ground that have 20 to 25 years remaining useful life. And that's using your own data. That's looking at prior documents the River Authority has published along with technical assessment. I think you would agree early on in phase one, that group solidified along, we want to replace and we want to do MVR. And from there on, it was a done deal. And repair and maintain to extend the current life for another 25 years is something that I think needs to be looked at. I think your base case, your three cases of all three of these cases are replace, replace, replace. Replace in place, replace conventional on new land, replace with MVR technology on new land. You're not providing a basis, which is repair and maintain to extend life for another 25 years. That was, I think, part of the original basis, one of the options.
I remember the presentation by David Munn recently, where he said that if you spend more than X dollars, you're throwing money down the drain because you still have to replace the entire facility.
And I strongly disagree with his analysis. Okay. So I'm encouraging you to add that base case back in. I don't think replace in place is a solid basis. It's a replace case. you're not presenting the directors with an option of not replacing. And I think that's what many of the directors want to see. Okay. So,
And what you're saying is not, you're not saying don't do anything.
correct.
You're saying what's here needs to be refurbished or created something new, put it in the ground, whatever the case may be, and use the land that we have that's not being used.
Your 2022, 2023 capital or 10-year plan had a number of items in there that were expected to be done over the next 10 years. Those items, a number of those look feasible, justified. Okay. If we continue to do that, I think we can work out a scenario where we extend the life of the current plant another 20, 25 years. I'm just very, very skeptical of walking away from assets that have 20 to 25 years remaining useful life, according to your own analysis. Okay. So maybe I'm the only person that believes that. I don't know. Maybe you'll hear from others also. But I think that's a more important base case than trying to decide whether we need new land or old land.
Trustee,
Regardless of what the number of directors say.
well,
It has to come from the trustees,
it needs to come from the trustees.
a formal vote at the
Okay.
trustee table.
Mhm.
In July, is what I heard earlier today.
Yeah, I don't think there's there's no magic for July. I think that was something that was proposed by the River Authority to try to keep things moving. It takes longer than that. It takes longer.
It shouldn't take longer than that.
July or August.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I've got one other quick thing. I put a document like this at your place. This is an update on the land acquisition for the sewer plant. If you recall, March 23, trustees authorized us to proceed with land acquisition for the water reclamation facility. We're still getting boundary surveys, environmental assessments, permission to even get on the property, and doing a few other things. We have not secured any appraisals, and no offers for property have been forwarded. So it's still in the very early stages. As you can see, we're maybe 20% into it at this time.
The next time you present an update on this, could you present total budget, money spent on this activity?
Well, if I may,
Yeah, sure.
if we stick with the rehab thing, we don't need all this land.
We may in the future.
I know, I'm saying it's a good idea to buy it while you can. It's just a question that we're proceeding with this land acquisition for the purpose of expanding the plant.
Correct.
So we're gonna buy it with today's dollars and then hope at some point we use it
Plus
in the
it's
next
also-
25 years.
Plus it's also a buffer
Yeah,
for the residents
It's homesteads.
from the
Very
residents on the
close
east
to
side of
that.
Golden Road.
So we'll be landowners,
We're already landowners.
not that land.
Not that land, but
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's the land I don't know what we're gonna buy if we're gonna use it 25 years from now.
so I think
We don't know what to answer yet.
there was some confusion. I think some people thought we approved the planning for this. We hadn't actually approved the spending of the funds.
Right.
And what Ed tells us is, no, we actually approved the spending of the appropriated the funds
Right.
to buy the land back in March,
March of 23.
yeah, March. Okay. So that's what they're doing. Would you suggesting we should pause this?
No, I said, I don't think we ever should pause any of this because it's just gonna cost a whole lot more later, but and the land, I'm just kind of a point that I'm glad we'll have a big buffer between those homes, which are just across the street now from it. But I think, I'm just saying again that we don't need to hurry.
One final thing, I don't see it on the agenda, but the other MUDs that have already approved the supplemental agreement or those that have not, we're asking that it just be put on pause until the results of this feasibility study are accomplished.
Well, item 13 takes us right to that.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Fine. So, just as background, I think everybody knows, MUD 7 was one of the boards that approved the supplemental agreement back in April, days before early voting started for the new directors. Now that we have new directors, I would like us to talk about whether we want to continue to support that supplemental agreement or whether we should reconsider. Pardon?
He just rescinded it.
No, he didn't rescind it. He said we asked us to pause it.
Not rescind.
So Eric had asked for this item to be on all the MUD agendas, not just this one. And the purpose is to have each of the districts consider that have approved it to consider rescinding that prior approval. It has not yet been approved by the River Authority Board. And so therefore, you have essentially contract parlance. You have an offer, but not an acceptance. So until their board took action on it, you can rescind that action. And so that's what is, being recommended for today, is that the boards that had approved it rescind that approval, because in the exhibit, I think it was amendment, it listed what was proposed to be done ultimately, and it included the NBR plan, the replacement. And now that that's a step backwards, 3 options, 4 options, however many options, we're not to the point to be able to move forward with that first tranche. And so that's why we need to go ahead and rescind.
So this is the 40 million?
Yes.
Correct.
Our portion of the 40 million.
Smaller.
Please.
Much smaller.
So do I have a motion that MUD 7 rescind our April approval for the supplemental agreement? That's what you're asking for, right?
Yes.
Move to rescind.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second
Any discussion before we vote? This is sounds like the recommendation from WWA and from the River Authority and our legal counsel.
That you can.
That I can.
Not making a policy recommendation.
Right,
but
just
you can. You have
Okay.
something you can- Yes.
Well, if there's no discussion, let's have a vote. All in favor of rescinding, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we rescinded that. That was a little twist I wasn't expecting. We did this to everybody, all the MUDs.
Yep. Well, I mean, it specifically talks, like Brian said, talks about an NBR plan. If we're gonna go forward with something else, at least from an evaluation standpoint, it doesn't have, it's not
Don't make sense to start.
right.
So the MUDs that have already previously met, they rescinded so far this week? Yeah.
I don't think,
Okay, so that actually make void my request for item 14. Because when I requested for item 13 to be on the agenda, I wasn't sure how that was going to play out and what was going to be allowed or not allowed. So I had requested an agenda item to consider and act upon a message from our MUD to the River Authority Board of Directors. What I was considering was there interest from this MUD to have a couple people draft something to share our concerns, bring that back to the MUD next month, and then approve it and then send it up to the Board of Directors for the River Authority. Happy to discuss that, see if you guys think that's still something we should do, could do.
Is it necessary right now?
I think it's less necessary since we just did item 13,
Yeah.
but I'm still interested in if there's.
Well, what was our bullet point message? What are we gonna do besides
To
say, have a good day?
Well, I think we wanted to be clear that the majority of the current board did not approve the supplemental agreement.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll vote against that.
Well, you just voted to rescind it.
I'm glad it did, because I really think anything that comes from this group really ought to come from the trustees based on the majority feelings of, rather than us get into, said, well, everybody was for except me. That means they can get about 10 letters, right?
Yeah.
Brad sent a letter saying no, and I want to send a letter saying yes. So
Well, I mean,
10
On
months.
behalf of the month, yeah.
sometimes diversity of thought is important to understand that.
The majority would be no or yes, I guess. Anyway, I just think we should do it based on the trustee. That's what the trustees are for.
Yeah.
Communicate with other agencies.
So are we willing to drop item 14 and move on,
I'm willing.
folks?
Yes.
Marta?
Yes.
Okay. Item 15, receive and discuss the draft Woodlands Division budget.
I'm gonna start this for Jamie, then pass it over to Jamie. But for the Woodlands Division budget, that was presented last month. So far, nothing has changed, no action this month. Action that we are requesting next month from this MUD to direct their trustee on how to vote at the official vote for the Woodlands Division budget in August. So the budget stayed the same. There's still a 2% reduction on the Woodlands rate, on the Woodlands water rate, and a stay still on the sewer rate. GRP rate will be voted on Monday, but it looks like for the Woodlands, it will go from $3.20 to $2.97. So 2 reductions, 1 stay still.
So the schedule is MUD in July. The MUD will give direction to their trustee. Okay, so you guys, next month, will vote whether to direct the trustee to approve the budget as presented or do something different. And then trustees will vote in August. Okay.
And the other item we do.
Will you go turn it over to Jamie?
Next month, you say? Next month we vote.
Next month, we
Let you.
Yeah.
Or to let you do what
Yeah.
Place, you'll have a draft budget that looks like this. This is the Bear Branch Division budget for the 5 MUDs that surround the Bear Branch Reservoir and
I got one.
Floyd easement. The River Authority has a maintenance and operations agreement that our Lake Conroe Division provides maintenance and operation of that area. This budget is to continue those operations, as well as this is to fund the projects that are ongoing currently for the Bear Branch Dam and the soil cement repair. That project is majority funded by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but there is contributions that are required from the 5 MUD districts. On this page, we have a breakout by MUD of what those contributions would be required to be for both the operating and project side of things. For your MUD specifically is $67,000 for fiscal year 25, which is a reduction from last year of $6,209. This is a contribution that's made every October that Maureen sends over to us after we filled out. So unless you have any specific questions on the budget, I can answer those, but otherwise, it's just to maintain operating and keep that project going.
Great. Thanks, Jamie. Okay. So back to Chris and or Ed. The anything on Bear Branch or Bear Branch Panther Branch?
Yeah,
Eric and Donnie.
so you are, as you know, you are a member or a stakeholder in the Bear Panther branch system. And if you recall, a couple years ago, there was a study that was begun. That was the Bear Branch Panther Branch detention improvements. And as you recall, there, part of the I'll call it a drainage hotspot, if you will, in the Woodlands is that Research Forest Gosling to the high school kind of area right in there, north and south of Research, has issues in the bigger events, in the more intense events. So this drainage study was intended to, number one, try to improve that, but also, more importantly, reduce the water surface elevation on research forest to allow emergency vehicles to pass, whereas they are not able to at this point during those bigger events. So that was one of the scopes or goals of the study. Both of the streams, the Bear and Panther, have both been modeled hydraulically. And so the results of that have come back, and it appears that from a study standpoint that we're able to get almost 2 feet reduction in the water surface elevation on research forest. So that looks to me that the study would accomplish the original goals. Now, recently we asked them to, now that the study is complete, update the cost estimates. If you recall, you have, I believe, a no interest loan. You also have a small grant, as well as the 5 stakeholders. Actually, there's 6 stakeholders in this project participated in with some cash. So all of those total up to about 11.3 million in funding that you have available currently for the project. And once we heard the update, felt like it was important that all stakeholders kind of heard the update on the study and then the update on the cost estimate. So I had LJ and Donnie come to give you an update.
Okay.
That's where we are. New directors, the pro rata share that's attributable to MUD 7 of this project is 7.6%. Just keep that in mind. We're talking about a number.
Yeah, you're not a large shareholder. The biggest stakeholder is MUD 67. That's 60 some odd %. And so they took the lead, and I have the biggest share and the biggest money responsibility.
And they get the biggest benefit.
Sure. You ready?
They were the most affected by the event. I'm Donnie Reed, LJA, district engineer for y'all for its inception. So Eric asked me to come and give an update. We got some new directors here, just to kind of give a little bit of history on it as well. The Woodlands was developed back in the late 70s, early 80s. We did a drainage model at that time that was state of the art and was the model that we had been working on for the last 40 years. Then, as you know, in 2016, we had tax day. We had the tax day and Memorial Day events that happened. And before I came up here, I was talking to one of our H&H guys, our drainage guys, and he reminded me that the year before, in 15, I believe it was Memorial Day, we had a similar type of event. So in 15, we had something. Then a year later, we had tax day and then Memorial Day. And then that's when the Woodlands Water, basically said, "Hey, Donnie, I need you to start looking at looking at what happened." Put all the information into the old model. Is basically the system functioned as it was designed. But hey, we have some problems. So the MUDs together probably spent well over $1 million throughout the Woodlands on inlet improvements, draining, swell improvements, cutting out curbs, digging more ditches, doing all sorts of things to mitigate flooding in certain areas. The big area that we're talking about here is the Research Forest Capstone High School area. We looked at all those scenarios, looking at ditches and everything, and we identified the main area. The concern is Bear Branch. We can do all that stuff, but when this event happens, Bear Branch water is going to get up. So we really need to reduce the water at Bear Branch, Panther Branch to get this to work. So we ran a model. We put in the data in the model, did some preliminary analysis, and said if we do some improvements on Bear Branch, we can reduce the water, as Eric said, roughly about 2 feet in certain areas on Research Forest that would make it more drivable and allow emergency vehicles to get through in that area. We put together a preliminary estimate, engineering and construction of about 11.3 million to the Water Development Board. Got a grant, came through. One of the things that we needed to do with that is to get a new model. Because as I mentioned before, we have an old model, state of the art then, and it's still acknowledged today. But if we're going to do any improvements or do any type of new work, agencies are not going to, they're going to say, hey, update your model. We need to have new data in it. So that's what we did. We updated a model. And so the Woodlands, all the MUDs, have a brand new model that is a drainage model that goes from 1488 all the way down to Spring Creek and from 2978 over to Panther Branch as well. So y'all have a new model that is up to date, that can function. We can analyze basically anything as far as drainage deals with in that area, which we didn't have the ability to as detailed as we do now. So when we went through this process and we said, hey, we're looking at it, once we get the model in there, we may, this project may come back and go, hey, it's not going to work because the new data that we have, the new model says it doesn't work. Well, we went through it and we found out that we do need to do a little bit more excavation. We do a little bit more clearing. We need to do a little bit more detention. So our construction cost is, we have 11.3 million, but it's roughly about $10 million for construction. We basically came back and it looks like it's going to be more like $16 to $18 million for construction for doing that. That's based on the new model. We still need to go through and, fine tune the model. We need to do some construction plans to determine that exactly if that's correct, but that's where we are there. One of the things I want to come and update on is that at the time, I keep mentioning the old model, we looked at just a few options of what we could do. One of the options is looking from Gosling Road down to Lake Woodlands. There's quite a bit of area that we could improve, but you also go through an out track down there called the route track. Well, we didn't look at it and do any analysis on it at that time because we'd have to look at land acquisition and maybe some wetlands down there, some other things that we didn't think about. So we didn't even look at that as an option because we had the old model as well. Now that we've got a new model, that may be one of the things that we want to look at is look at some different, a couple other options instead of just what we preliminarily, did when we were trying to just get the grant, because we have a model that can analyze this stuff a whole lot better. So if you look at it, if you look at the cost estimate, you have cost estimates in here at the top. I think it's this cost estimate right here. You go to that one. I don't know where it is. I think maybe the last page. If you get to the top of that, it basically shows your construction areas. And at the top, it's 16.1 and 16.3 million. That's the construction cost for alternate 1, alternate 2. The difference in those is just a little extra clearing and stuff that's in there. And like I said, what we initially had was about $10 million for construction. If you look to the left and further down, you see there's a bold number of 82 million. That's really a number that's kind of more of a shock number, because when we went through this whole process, I'd gone to the Corps of Engineers a couple of times and said, hey, we've got a project down here. It's going to be going through here. We use aerial topography or aerial images to show them where potential wetlands could be. They said, hey, what you're planning on doing should be fine. Shouldn't have any impact. Shouldn't have any impact to wetlands. You can just go, if you hit a wetland, just restore the wetlands. That's what they say. I put this number in here because due to administration change, EPA's rules or something, they may come back and say, I think it's very unlikely, but they could come back and go, hey, you're going to disturb this wetlands. You need to have credits. You need to go buy credits. When you buy credits, that comes into the millions of dollars just to buy credits. I don't think that's going to happen, but we want to present you all the information that, hey, if we get further down the road through this, whether we do this project or we move it a little bit somewhere else, if we have wetlands and they come back and say you need credits, I mean, I just can't see how y'all would want to go forward and spend millions of dollars just to, that does nothing for construction.
That's the 49 million.
That's the 49 million. And it's a scare number. I don't think that's what it is, but it's more of a shot number. Let's kind of keep that in the back of our head.
Your base construction cost has no contingency in it?
The new one did not. I mean, it does. You can say that's where you got 20 million, but the 16 is probably.
The 16 is no contingency?
Yes, sir.
So after hearing kind of that update, I kind of came to the conclusion that there's probably 3 options that we have. One is do nothing, walk away. 2 is the idea that, as you know, One Water Task Force was recreated the last couple months. We've kind of been starting to get a meeting or 2 up and running. The idea was that we identify a project that group could to run with. And we've actually had a meeting this week and I brought it up. We have several legislators, representatives there from state and fed that actually says that they may be able to find some funds. The goal there would be go with this option or this plan, but go find more funds instead of going to the MUDs for more funds. Let's see if we can partner up with, Township, Howard Hughes, the precinct, the new commissioner, fed, state, and identify if as a overall community project that this is for the good of the community, that you identify other funding partners to help with that. And so there was some positive feedback from some of those folks that might have some possibility. The third option would be to take a step back, and as Donnie said, the model's already been done, so they can kind of play around with the model, move detention to that other track, or maybe look at other alternatives, spend a little bit more money and see if there's a silver bullet somewhere. I don't believe that there is that's going to appreciably change the cost of it, the project, but there could be. I think at the time that this was identified, that these parameters were identified, I think the thought was that this is probably our best shot with these pieces of the land and widening and, the way that the study went. So, but who knows? I mean, now that the model's been created, it's a lot easier to do some scenarios. But at this point, my recommendation would be to see if we can partner with those other entities to try to find some funding to help out or fund the delta. Because we're looking at about probably a delta of about 6 or 8 million. And we were told that on the federal side, they usually do an 80-20 and 20 would be a match. We're way past 20 with the 11.3 million. So they thought it was pretty favorable possibly to find some additional monies. We'll just have to see.
So 11 million includes a significant amount of state money.
Yeah, what was it?
Up to 1.130 million grant, a little over $6.5 million bond issue that had 0% interest that was issued by month 67.
So are you saying our costs can be 1.5 million to 6.4 million? The amount that this project would cost us, like 7, based on your numbers of 16,000 to 82,000?
The 82 is more like a shock. I mean, 82 is not even going to happen because that's the environmental.
You would never do that.
That would never happen. That's one of those things that, like I said, I put that in there just at the core, which I doubt that's going to happen. But there have been instances where the developers or entities have been required to go pay credits. It's ridiculous why you would do that. But if they came back, that basically, in my opinion, that would kill the deal.
Yeah, they're basically telling you don't do the
Yeah,
project.
exactly. It's basically what it is. So that's the only reason that's in there. That's the only reason.
But your cost allocation is based on a cost of 10.5, right? And over here, you're estimating 16.4. Is that correct?
6 more, 6 to 8. I mean, the 6 doesn't.
2/3 increase in cost, 66% more.
Back in 2016 and 17, when we started running these numbers, we worked with the water agency to look at various different entities to get grants or to get, funding from different places, and at that time, everybody was reaching out. A bunch of people had different options, that were available. And the Water Development Board was one that we thought was a reasonable one to go after. But yeah, we looked at multiple options.
So no action required.
Nope, just an update. I want to let you know where it's at.
Thank you, Donnie. Okay, item 17 was just an information request. I saw the email that went out about the city of Houston requesting more water. And it wasn't clear what their justification or where the water's going. Are they just trying to fill up Lake Houston? Are they using the water? So any insights to?
And I'll talk to that and maybe save Ed. But I mean, the whole thing,
It's a
Brad, it's about flood control.
Well, this isn't related to, is this related to flood control?
That's
This-
why they released it.
Okay.
For their
Pardon?
city called for their water. They have to justify the TCQ, how they are using them.
If it's going, well, I keep hearing it might rain this week.
Well, this was before the rain.
This is
No, it was the last time. It was all based on rain, to my
May
knowledge.
11th.
That's when it was gonna rain. So rather than let the lake, which is at 200, I mean, it's
Yeah,
full.
flood stage.
So then when we start to drain into the lake, we have no choice but to release it.
Okay.
And when we release it, we flood Lake Houston, and then Lake Houston floods Kingwood, and then we have a political issue. So the problem is that I think I'm right, that the water right is the city of Houston to do with as they please. But I think because the council member Martin for the last 5 years or so has been on television about how.
Okay.
Lake
So this,
Conroe-
this was a preemptive,
It's my feeling. that-
is that, I mean, it wasn't clear from, I mean, they didn't say that in the email. Didn't they, I mean, recently, I mean, like,
The city doesn't have to justify it. That's why they're calling for water.
Yeah.
It's their water, so they can call for it whenever they want. Now, they've got to, again, they've got to justify it to the TCQ that it was for one of the 4 beneficial uses.
and they're just blowing it through the lake into the bay.
Possible, or it could be going to the Northeast Water Plant.
You're saying you can't speak for the city.
Won't
You haven't seen what they submitted to the TCQ,
Correct.
so it'd be speculation.
I won't speak for the city.
Okay, I just,
So we own a third of that, correct? How much of that third do we use?
We use probably 90% of that third.
Wow.
And so quite a bit of it goes for the surface water plant. And then we also have some in irrigation and industrial uses around Lake Conroe.
I have a question, a follow-up question about that. That is, I remember years ago, some talk about city of Houston and SJRA doing an agreement, somewhat of an option, maybe some of the other 2/3.
We have an option on that 2/3, but that was in anticipation of Lone Star keeping their rules intact.
Right.
And so in 2025, we should start taking more surface water to deliver.
So basically, without details, you're paying a fee to keep that option open until you might need it.
At this time, that's correct.
And you can take some of that water. And of course, Houston is doing their Loose Bayou project to come from the Trinity over to the Northeast plant. Diminishes their need for water supply from Lake Conroe.
Do you foresee us needing more water?
In Montgomery County, yes, ma'am. In the next 35 to 40 years.
So we would need to buy that from Houston?
Well, we have an option, we have a contract with them for that water. And so there are some dates in there for takedown of certain amounts of water. We're trying to renegotiate those dates because right now there's not a demand for the water.
Is that on here?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
so that's a bigger issue outside the Woodlands. That's a Montgomery County issue.
County issue.
So,
So,
It affects us though.
not really.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
it
if
could have,
surface water's not utilized, then presumably more groundwater would be utilized. And if more groundwater is utilized, then you have subsidence and other.
Faulting and various other things that occur.
So it does impact us in the Woodlands, regardless of whether the population increase in Montgomery County is materially contributed by the Woodlands or not.
but we're not at risk of losing access to our water. Okay. So, okay, appreciate it. I mean, I've heard on the news recently that they've, the apps to draw down in advance, but back in May 11th, I didn't connect this to, let's lower the lake level.
It was for potential.
Would've been nice.
I'll say this, these last few times, having it on Facebook and in the newspapers is pretty unique. They didn't normally do that. Now it's suddenly a public announcement.
Well, they want to get credit for it, right? Right.
For not flooding Kingwood.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
Well, it's not just Kingwood, potentially.
I mean, they've had, well, I said, all those river plantation, all
Right.
those places that have habitually had that. I believe that's what it's for.
So moving on to item 18. just a little bit of background. I was doing some independent analysis on treatment plant one and was looking for some more data. So I sent the request in for more data. And sounds like Chris has pulled all the data together. It's on here. Just so you're,
What's it titled? What can we look for that's yours? Does it say Brad House data? And the flash drive.
oh, you got
Title?
a printout of it?
It's, real.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, if you like,
sure, yeah.
so you can kind of see what you're looking for once you see it.
Thank you very much.
So I can tell you what I requested was capacity or average rate. Top five wet weather rates, spending on maintenance, hours, work order, maintenance information, permit violations, awards, and major equipment out of service. So,
I'm glad you brought that up. Because I think that's the missing element we don't talk a lot about. Is the fact that we have permits that we've had in place that can also change with the state or federal government. And my major goal is to see that we never violate any of those.
I think that's true for everybody.
Ever. Well, but that's a consideration while we put this patchwork on here for 25 years. There's a consideration of what happens if we suddenly start violating solids, pH, on and on and on. Then you start designing fix. That'd be a good time to start after that first big fine.
Chris, you have anything else to say on this
Just
data?
one thing. Most everything was straightforward. Just note, if you're looking on it on paper, you're not going to see all the details. Some is electronic in the comment boxes of Excel. One thing to note is that our accounting system, our old accounting system, is not able to separate out, this is just wastewater plant one, this was just for the admin building. And the accounting department, our IT department, and a lot of other folks have rectified that with the new system, but that just came online May 1st of this year.
Okay.
So Haley has spent a couple days going through and figuring out the best she could, the expenses on the projects and the maintenance just for wastewater plant one. But we're not able to call out the exact expenses, but we've got you pretty much what we could find on.
Okay, great. Thanks for best effort on that one. Brian, item 19.
Nothing to cover in open session.
Okay. Is that a foreshadowing?
It sounds ominous.
Eric, you want to do the GM report?
Yes, sure. Just real quick, couple updates. We did conduct the new director orientations. We held one on the 5th and the 10th for WWA, and Nestre held one on the 7th. So I think everything went pretty well. A lot of good information for the new directors. One of the things that I've kind of saw as we were presenting was possibly the need to develop a further, maybe a workshop series, I'll call it, and develop a library of topics that we could continue on with for not only the new directors, but actually the existing directors. There may be some topics out there that we'd like to develop further and sit down and kind of have workshops on. So we're going to be looking at different topics. I'd love to hear from directors. I'm asking directors for input if there's any specific topics they'd like for us to develop as part of the workshop series. We're going to start building a library for that, and then that'll be open up to do little sessions probably in the future. So we're looking forward to that. Wanted to point out some articles in your packet. There's one I think on some things City of Conroe is doing, and then a new article on PFAS. And so I directed that, as well as a couple of thank yous that we've received from customers. I always like to share that with directors because we don't take those lightly. Those are very important to us. And finally, I will pass it on to John to talk about the communications report briefly.
Evening. Page 48 is your report. I know we're running late here, so I'll make this brief for you. Wanted to note on page 49 on the infrastructure renewal communications. So we've been communicating on infrastructure for for a while now. You're going to see that effort ramp up significantly here in the near future. We did get a number of pieces of material from Holloway consultants regarding this, and we're reviewing those materials. And again, you'll be seeing a lot of production coming out here pretty soon. I do want to note that planning an all director meeting with Holloway, and we don't have it on the calendar yet, but that's part of our effort to make sure all directors are fully understanding what's happening with that infrastructure communication program, and ask questions and just make sure you're aware of what's going on with that process. And then just lastly, on page 50 there at the bottom, the water bill. So that's flip-flopped. Actually, this month's water bill ad is about the auto pay system through WaterSmart. And then next month is going to be a notice about the CCRs going out, so water quality reports. Those have to be delivered, mailed out by July 1. That's a summary report of 2023 data. Every customer will get one. We push that out through social media and other outlets and keep those reports online as well for customers. Any questions?
Thank you. I think last time we were supposed to double your time. This time we got short last time, so.
I'll tell you, John, I did get one of those rude texts yesterday about violating my water average. I said I've been fighting it. I don't have an irrigation system or anything, but it got dry enough where I went ahead and watered some of my pollinator garden. And sure enough, the next day I got a text saying you've exceeded your average.
Right, because you can go in, and set where how you want to be alerted. If you want to be alerted at
So it's
1.5 times your normal use.
very good conservation tool. Yeah.
Okay, next item is trustee meeting summary. Interest of time, just a couple things. We did have a public comment related to the 10-year plan. You can read that. He was most concerned about justification for different technology. Director Rudolph presented a nice update on Region H activities. New directors, if you're not familiar with Region H and what goes on there, you can look on the Google Drive. And I'm sure if you reached out to Arthur, he'd be happy to have a phone call with you or give you a little update. He's got a lot of energy for what he does over there. Financials, Woodlands report, we covered most of that today. What else is on here? We did talk about the treatment plan. Ed had made the initial proposal that we discussed earlier. Eric did the GM report. On the committees, a couple of updates from the committees, and we were told that they would talk about staffing the committees going forward at the next meeting. So that's kind of it from the trustees. Any questions? Okay, Brian, now we're back to you.
Yep, we do need to recess the closed session today, so here to stay and